Robbie Lawler has got dynamite in his hands. Every punch he throws is to knock his opponents senseless. Robbie Lawler is one of the most electrifying fighters in the world. He's been around breaking and dismantling his opponents in different promotions. It's quite hard to tell when and how it all started for Robbie. What was his drive, his motivation to do what he does at the extent to which he does it? And most of all, how did he get so good? Just stick around and those questions will be answered in this video. But make sure you stick to the end where we reveal the amazing amount of cash he's earned for being a veteran in MMA. This man has made bank. Let's begin. Robbie Lawler's real name is Robert Lawler. He was born on March 20th, 1982 in San Diego, California. Robbie grew up with his mother and his brother because his father was serving in the Marines in Bettendorf, Iowa. When he was 10 years old, his mother and brother moved to Iowa to join their father. A decision that would eventually shape Robbie Lawler to become the knockout machine we see today. Robbie's early aspirations originally gravitated towards boxing. In grade school, he watched fights on TV, soaking in what he could and practicing on his punching bag the next day. However, Robbie's father was not crazy about the idea of his son becoming a boxer, with his 10 to 12 rounds of continuous hits to the head. Instead, he would take Robbie to Taekwondo tournaments, where Robbie eventually ended up being the junior Olympic champion in martial arts. Seeing how good he was, his dad decided to make things even better for him. In 1998, Robbie's dad went to liaise with veteran mixed martial artist Pat Miletich to take Robbie under his wing when Robbie was just 16 years old. Miletich saw the raw talent bestowed upon a young and vibrant Robbie, so he agreed to give him a try. Pat immediately went to work on making Robbie a well-rounded fighter, building on his natural speed and agility as a striker, while also focusing on his submission work. Training at Pat Miletich's famed gym in Bettendorf, Iowa, Lawler was put to test daily in practice sessions with world champions like Jens Pulver and Matt Hughes. Under Miletich's guidance, Lawler, a southpaw, developed a stiff right hand and the killer instinct you need to simply survive in an environment that saw plenty of fighters slink off in the middle of the night, unable to face the prospect of another day at practice. In 2001, Lawler made his debut. Robbie Lawler showed the high level of training he had received from Pat Miletich after dominating his opponent John Reeds in a spectacular fight. Lawler got the win via TKO in the first round. It was a good start for Lawler, but when things got insanely good for him was when he faced Saburo Kawakatsu at a long-forgotten extravaganza in Hawaii at Shogun Fight 1. On December 15, 2001, Robbie Lawler, a 19-year-old Iowan prodigy, appeared to be cut from granite as he laid waste to Saburo Kawakatsu that fateful night. To be honest, the world wasn't really watching Shogun fights, but that wasn't important, at least not for Lawler. One man who mattered was in the front row watching the laser light show. And that man was UFC President Dana White, in his first year as president of UFC, with a dream to reinvent the fight game. White, on his way towards becoming one of America's most iconic fight promoters, knew what he wanted, and he wanted Lawler. White immediately signed Lawler to a UFC contract in what he called a Christmas present to myself. With only 3 professional fights to his name, one by KO and the other 2 by TKOs, it was the push from UFC President Dana White that got Robbie his ultimate break in the business. White saw Lawler as a star in the making and did everything in his power to make that happen. Against fellow Midwestern bangers, Lawler excelled. He knocked the potential right out of fellow prospect Aaron Riley at UFC 37. And just a month later, he knocked out Steve Berger at UFC 37.5. becoming the first fighter to compete on cable television, hand-selected by White himself. He was living life in the fast lane, but soon after, everything started falling off. Lawler ultimately wasn't ready emotionally or athletically to live up to the expectations that he would be the UFC's breakout star. Here's the drill. Fighting at the top level at least is about more than just competing in the cage. There are responsibilities to the promoter and the fans that Lawler says he just wasn't ready for at the time. Lawler had an impressive start, winning his first 3 fights in the UFC. But after losing 3 out of his next 4 fights, including one with his future arch-rival Nick Diaz, the hype behind Lawler dropped drastically. But we really can't move on without talking about his amazing fight with Nick Diaz. One of Lawler's best bouts came early in his career against the antagonizing Nick Diaz. This fight is remembered well because it introduced Diaz's antics to mainstream UFC fans for the first time. Nick Diaz came out taunting Robbie Lawler early and whenever he could during the fight. The first round was intense, with Diaz rocking Lawler with a punch that staggered him to a knee. Lawler recovered and went on the offensive as the pace of the first 5 minutes was furious. The second round would not be so close, however, as Nick Diaz was able to counter a Lawler punch and catch him flush with a strike of his own. Lawler straightened briefly and fell to the mat as he was knocked out by Diaz. However, after Lawler's quick start, he bombed out of the UFC in 2004, becoming an MMA Ronin, drifting from promotion to promotion, never quite living up to his dream. Surprisingly, in his next fight after leaving the UFC, Lawler won his first pro MMA title. He faced Falanico Vitali at Super Brawl Icon, where he straight up punished Vitali with his impressive knockout power to win the Super Brawl Middleweight Championship. From there, he went on to become the Icon Sport Middleweight Champion, Elite XC Middleweight Champion, and the Strikeforce Middleweight Champion. Of course, just as you would expect, he faced the best of the best along the way, like UFC's Jake Shields, Scott Smith, Tim Kennedy, and Frank Trigg. But 8 years and 18 fights later, Robbie Lawler made his long-expected comeback to the UFC. Lawler returned to the welterweight division and faced Josh Koscheck on February 23, 2013 at UFC 157. It was a nostalgic feeling, getting to see Lawler once again showcasing his mystical punch power in front of UFC fans. Though the stoppage was contested, Lawler won the fight via TKO and rekindled the love UFC fans had for him. After going 3-1 in his next 4 fights, he faced Matt Brown for the UFC welterweight title eliminator. Matt missed weight during the weigh-ins, but Lawler still did what he had to do to get the win. He won via unanimous decision and transcended to being the #1 contender for the UFC welterweight championship. On December 6, 2014 at UFC 181, Robbie Lawler faced Johny Hendricks for the UFC welterweight title. This fight literally defined Robbie Lawler's position as one of the greatest welterweights in the UFC. Lawler lost to Hendricks during their first encounter for the vacant championship early in 2014. But this time, Lawler wasn't willing to let that happen. In what many MMA pundits consider to be a true championship fight, Robbie Lawler showed the world that he was ready to be a bona fide welterweight champion. He went to war with Hendricks for 25 minutes. And after 5 solid rounds with nothing to separate both of them, the judges scored the contest in favor of Lawler, making him the new UFC welterweight champion. It was also voted the 2014 Fight of the Year by major sports outlets. Being champion was great, but his first title defense was another war. He faced Rory Macdonald at UFC 189 on July 11, 2015. This fight did not only win the 2015 Fight of the Year award, it's regarded as one of, if not the greatest UFC fight of all time. It had it all: technicality, action, and some very electrifying moments where both men were on the verge of giving up. But once again, Lawler got the win via knockout in the 5th round of the fight. His next title defense wasn't any easier. He faced Carlos Condit at UFC 195 on the 2nd of January 2016. It was a dogfight. You really have to give Lawler some credit because he handled the ferociousness of Condit with expertise. The fight went the full 5 rounds and was a very close one. But in the end, 2 judges scored the contest in Lawler's favor, giving him the win by split decision. This fight also won the 2016 Fight of the Year award by major MMA and sports outlets. That was the peak of Robbie Lawler's magnificent career. It was more or less like his mission in MMA was complete. Everything that followed afterward was just icing on the cake. He later lost the belt to Tyrone Woodley and eventually had a string of losses against Rafael dos Anjos, Ben Askren, Colby Covington, and Neil Magny. But his rematch against Nick Diaz is the one we need to analyze to the fullest. Before we do that, let's see how much Robbie Lawler has earned during his time competing in MMA. But hey, if you're a new subscriber to our channel and you'd like a shout out in one of our videos, then go comment "I sub now" in the comment section down below. Once you do that, you're officially in our shout out contest. It's literally the coolest thing ever, so go comment "I sub now" and let's make you famous amongst our fans. Robbie Lawler started off slow, earning just a couple grand in his first bout. But after joining the Strikeforce promotion, he started earning 6-figure purses. His highest purse came from his fights against Colby Covington, Neil Magny, Rafael Dos Anjos, and Ben Askren, where he earned $220,000 in each fight. His total purse earned throughout his career stands at $5,339,000, and he has an estimated net worth of $8 million. Robbie Lawler has never been one to crave much attention or establish himself as a dominant personality in the world of mixed martial arts. Instead, he's kept a low-profile personality and lets his fighting do the talking. Lawler is a family man at heart and is married to his wife Marsha with a son added to the family. Lawler faced returning veteran Nick Diaz in a rematch on September 25, 2021 at UFC 266. The bout was contested at middleweight and was a special non-title, non-main event 5-round fight. Nick gave Lawler a hell of a tough time in the first round. In the second round, Nick got too sloppy and slow with his attacks, giving Lawler enough room to do damage. And everything came to an end when Lawler brought out his big guns to end the fight with a TKO in the third round. He's a 3-time Fight of the Year winner. He's a 4-time MMA champion across 4 different promotions and is one of the best knockout artists in the world. That right there is why everyone loves Robbie Ruthless Lawler. Be sure to check out this other video showing on your screen, and bye for now.